back to Jeff Koinange Live. It's that time of the evening for the interview. My guest today, Deputy Chief of Staff at the Office of the President, Nzioka Waita. He's in charge of delivery. By the way, those of you who don't know Nzioka, he used to be the Director of Corporate Affairs at Safaricom, the largest taxpayer in the region. Question is, who leaves Safaricom to work for Gava? Nzioka, you did it. Were you crazy? Any regrets?
None whatsoever.
None?
None.
To work for Gava?
To work for Gava.
We'll get back to that in a moment. Let's go straight. Let's go straight to the question we've been asking. We've been asking the question: has the Jubilee administration delivered on its promises? 38% of you say yes. 62% of you say no. Nzioka, that's not a nice number. That's like an E. So far.
I think that's a good number, Jeff.
Okay. By the way, SMS number 22422. You can tweet us at Nzioka Waita at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag JK Live. Let's look at some of the tweets before we sit down and chat. Okay, straight to the tweets. What do we have, Monica? Okay, Eric, you say, Jeff, ask him how many companies in total have closed shop and others laid off workers due to unfavorable conditions of doing business in Kenya.
That's a good question. And let's be serious. Kenya, Nairobi specifically, has now overtaken South Africa as the leading destination for foreign direct investment. Over $1 billion of investment has come into this country. Now, some businesses have closed, particularly in the financial services sector. And that is not something that we deny. And it's largely driven by the regulatory environment in the financial services sector. We asked for a capping of interest rates. We got a capping of interest rates, and that's affected the performance of banks, and they want to keep their profit margins, and they're cutting their overhead costs. They've cut their expenses, and unfortunately, they've sent some of our young people home. But let's be serious. Let's talk about GIZ, the biggest manufacturer of aluminum cans. Let's talk about Volkswagen, back in Kenya after 30 years. Let's talk about Peugeot, back in Kenya after 30 years. Let's talk about Hinduja, the manufacturers of all these big lorries coming out of India. Let's talk about Tata, back in Nairobi and manufacturing and assembling trucks in Nairobi. Let's talk about Wrigley's and their 6 billion shilling plant in Machakos. So, I can go on and on for a long time, because Kenya is the place to be. And international people, international observers, people who rank this country as a destination for investment alongside other countries, because Kenya does not exist on its own, it exists and compared to other destinations. We are doing well. Okay,
Eric, I hope that answers your question. Frank, you ask, where are the 5 state-of-the-art stadia? Where are the 1 million jobs yearly? Unga Ningapi. How much is Unga now? How much is Unga?
Unga is 150.
Yeah.
By the weekend, you'll probably be looking at Jogoo from Unga, will be about 119. Taifa from Mombasa Maize Millers, they're saying probably about 119.
119?
Yeah, 119. Jamii Millers from Eldoret are saying they'll probably be able to land in sub 119. So prices will come down.
Okay. You see that question about the stadia, right?
Yes.
Mike Okinyi, Citizen Sports senior reporter, he actually said, with the KPL going on now, no games are being played in Nairobi.
Yes.
Because Kasarani is under repair.
Yes.
So is Moi.
Yes.
City Stadium is dilapidated.
Yes.
So no teams are playing in Nairobi. They're all playing in Machakos or elsewhere. And you guys promised 5 new stadia.
Yes, we did promise 5 new stadia, Jeff. And I'll just reiterate what His Excellency the President said on Monday. We haven't done the 5 stadia. So let's get that elephant out of the room. We have done the plans. We have done the designs, and now we're looking for the funding. But what have we done in the meantime? Kipchoge Keino is now newly refurbished, fantastic turf on their running tracks. We've refurbished the Narok Stadium, fantastic. If you saw some of the rallies that our politicians are now holding in the brand new, newly refurbished Narok Stadium. In Kisumu, We've also done refurbishment of the stadium. So it's not like nothing has happened.
But you guys promised 5. Let me come back here. You
Yes.
promised 5, and you said, okay, you haven't done it.
Yes.
But the question people will be asking is, why haven't you done it?
There
Even one.
I think there were other more pressing priorities when this administration
But
took
you all
office.
promised 5 stadia.
Yes, we did. And Jeff, there's one resource envelope. You know, there's one place you collect taxes, and you must spend it wisely. In 2013, when we took over this administration, there are a number of challenges that we confronted immediately. And they're not challenges that were any fault of this administration or the fault of the preceding one. It's just the geopolitical situation that we found ourselves in. The rise of violent extremism was at its height. In 2013, we had to make very deliberate steps to boost the strength of our security services.
Is that going to happen later on?
Yeah.
5 stadia?
Of course.
Promise?
I guarantee it.
Okay. And please, by the way, this next question is for you guys who either have roads or don't have roads wherever you are. And just tell us, tweet us or text us whether you do have roads, because Deputy President William Ruto has on more than one occasion gone out of his way saying what? I think there's 7,000 kilometers of road currently being constructed, and how many completed? Like 1,900 or something. Where are these roads?
You know, Jeff, it's important for us to assess where we've come from. Up until 2013, the government only built roughly 200 kilometers of road per year. Per year, and this includes previous administrations prior to 2013, right? 200 kilometers of road per year, right? The 1,900 plus and counting, because that figure changes daily as we put down new blacktop on the roads. That figure changes daily. Now, how many times have you been to Modagashe?
Modahu?
Modagashe.
Where's that?
Yeah, Nuno Modagashe in Garissa County. For the first time, they have tarmac. That road has begun. Elwak, how many times have you gone to Elwak?
I've been there.
Yeah, Elwak to Mandera, under construction. You know, those are places that have never seen roads. Today, if you go from Mariakani to Kilifi, close to 70% of that road is now done through Bamba.
I took it.
Right?
I took it.
That is tarmac on the ground. I'll count you a very nice 100-kilometer stretch from Voi to Mwatate, right? That's a couple of clicks. From Mwatate to Voi, from Mwatate to Taveta, that's another 84 clicks. You know, that's a road that has been promised by 4 administrations. 4 administrations. The most important strategically economic border point that this country has. No road until Jubilee.
Okay, so you talk about roads that you all have a good way of, patting yourselves on the back. But, let's talk about other roads. People always tweet in and text in saying, look, we have no roads. We don't see the roads.
Jeff,
Thika Superhighway was Kibaki. Don't take credit for that. Or the Namanga Highway. Don't take credit for that. It started in Kibaki's time.
that's good. What about Kungu Karumba Road down here? Missing links that have never been done since independence. Today, you should be able to go in the next couple of months from Kilimani to Langata, through Kibera, and onto the bypass, because all those roads, first of all, which were grabbed and have now been reclaimed, and that missing link is being done. Those are roads that affect real people today. The Red Hill Road passing into Kiambu County, those roads were grabbed. People had built houses on those roads. We've cleared them. Their roads are now there.
You had promised 10,000 kilometers of roads.
Yes. August is far, right? I think it's important to look. We're looking at the stages right now. We've got roads that are under construction. We've got roads that are under procurement. And we've got roads that we've planned. And let's also be realistic. Do we have money now to build 10,000 kilometers in the next couple of months? Is it physically and realistically possible? No. But have we taken the infrastructure of this country to unparalleled levels, historically never seen? Yes, we have. And I think, Jeff, the proof is in the pudding. When you ask me about where these roads are they roads on air? Go to Njoro Junction, Nakuru Njoro. There's an interchange now. That road is going up into the farming communities. Let's go into Eldoret. The Eldoret bypass is now beginning. Let's go to Kisumu. Ahero interchange is now being done. If you live on Rusinga Island, and I love making this point because I have friends who come from Rusinga, and they used to tell me, you know, Chief, when it rains, it's a myth. You are stuck on Rusinga, you cannot move. Today, between Rusinga and Bita, there's a new bridge. It's not an air bridge. It's not imaginary. You know, the bridge is there. People are using it today as we speak. So, you know, as much as one would want to pour vitriol, as much as one would want to hate and say the government has done nothing, really, the people in those places know what is going on.
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's difficult to get praise because you guys, you have a great way of praising yourselves. The razzmatazz with unveiling the portal the other day, the portal where you show all your developments. Great razzmatazz, but people say it's more bark than bite. You know, you guys have a great flair, and then there's no follow through. Why is that?
I disagree, Jeff. No administration has been so accountable about its record than this administration, right? No administration has been able to tell you what they've done in very small sectors, soft sectors of the economy. You know, the infrastructure is one piece. We're very proud of the infrastructure piece, but it's just one piece. I think, you know, it's important to talk about some of the softer things that affect people today.
Go on, tell me.
If you talk to some of your relatives, and hopefully you also have an NHIF cover. You know, we take out 500 bob of your salary every month, and you get a cover for 6,000 shillings for the whole year, right? For that, if you have kidney failure, you get dialysis 2 sessions per week, paid for by the state. If you are diabetic, you get your drugs, your insulin provided to you by the state. If you need x-rays, MRIs, CT scans, you get those paid for by the state.
Are all these available? Right? The MRIs, the dialysis, the drugs, are they available?
That is the next good question. Now, over the last 3 years, we've implemented one of the most aggressive health programs that has ever been seen. I was watching something online the other day, and I guess it's a factor of the information that we have shared, because I saw feedback saying, this equipment does not belong to the government, you've listed. Of course we've listed. You know, we've taken a lease model because which government wants to be stuck with a capital cost of equipment that will be redundant in 4 years? So we've agreed with the likes of General Electric, Philips, and the most reputable manufacturers of medical equipment in the world to roll out across 98 hospitals in 47 counties. We've got the 5 major referral hospitals across the country, and then we've got level 4, level 5 hospitals. Now, dialysis machines, x-ray machines. We've distributed them based on need. In some cases, not every county gets the same thing, but we've tried in counties that are close to each other. We've tried to give one county ultrasound, x-ray, HDU facility. In another county, an ICU, beds and emergency care facilities. In others, they've got the dialysis machines, the water treatment and facilitation. So there has been a very systematic investment in healthcare to complement what we're doing with national insurance.
But not enough.
Yeah?
Not enough.
Of course not enough. And we've got more to do because we want universal healthcare for Kenyans, you know, in our lifetime. I mean, this has been something that has been aspirational. I recall, you know, in the last administration, when there was discussion about universal healthcare, what we got was this very strange guy, I remember, wearing a turban, who fleeced NHIF of all sorts of stuff, all sorts of money. And look at where we've brought NHIF to, Jeff. You know, today NHIF is the payer of first resort. Anybody who's had their salary, you know, deducted, the first thing the hospital will ask you, do you have your NHIF cover? And if you have your NHIF cover, right, can we pay? So the issue was not, did President Kenyatta start NHIF? No, he didn't. But has President Kenyatta strengthened it and made it more accountable? Has our Ministry of Health come and played ball and showed what it's doing with the medical allocation given to it? Yes, it is.
So if you guys have been this successful as you claim you have, why are you getting such a bad rap? Why do many Kenyans think you haven't performed?
I'll put it down to 2 things, Jeff. I think one is our political environment is what it is, you know, and we can't really do anything about it. Our relationship with the media could be better. And it's something that I think we are working on to try and improve that discourse, because the media is an essential component of governance. So if we're not able to get some of these good stories and positive stories out to the public,
Yeah.
you know, inevitably what carries the day is the negative rhetoric. But the negative rhetoric is not, it's just that. It's empty rhetoric. And it needs to be rebutted, you know, and that's why we have to come out and say something. It might be seen as razzmatazz, but you know, Jeff, we have a duty to explain to taxpayers and to Wananchi what it is we've done with the resources that they have entrusted
But it's
to
not
us.
convincing, Nzioka. And at the same time, NASA, even though they haven't even picked a flag bearer, they get more headlines than you guys. What is it?
I can't really comment on that, Jeff.
You have to, man. I mean, because
I can't really
look,
comment
you
on
know,
that. I think let's be realistic. Let's be realistic, Jeff. You know, politics sells, and the newspapers sell good politics and, you know, exciting politics, and they're in the business of doing that. You know, stories about a road in Kendu Bay are not exciting to Mwananchi, and we have to face that fact, right? You know, the fact that Charles Keter, Minister for Energy, has gone to help Mwananchi in Baringo to light up their homes, that's not news for them, because what people want to see is like Rome, gladiators, the fights. You know, that's the exciting stuff.
Okay, speaking of lighting up,
Yeah.
you all promised 100% electricity.
Yes.
You promised.
Yes.
It hasn't happened.
100% by 2022. 70% by 2017.
Okay, you're not at 70. You're not at 70.
As we speak
Yeah.
today,
Yes.
right, we are at 65% and counting. We are connecting an average of 90,000 Kenyans to the grid every month. Confidently, by August 8th, we will be at 70.
70%?
Yes.
And 100% by 2022?
Yes.
Everyone in the country?
Yes.
Oh, so, okay.
Every household will have access. Whether they want it, whether they can pay for it, is a different story. You see, Jeff, this is a sequential thing, right? And the energy story needs to be put in context. Let's step away from the politics, right? We have a problem with generation. We had a problem with generation because this country relied on the rain for its light, right? That shift has been made, but that shift is investment heavy. Moving to geothermal, moving to wind, and moving to solar costs money. So it costs government money and it costs private sector money, right? Now, to make the case for private sector investment, they need to see two things. One, they need to see a transmission network, which is why you can see Ketraco crisscrossing the country and wires and way leaves going all over the place, you know, because that distribution, that power needs to be taken to the people. Then we need the last mile. You need to create that environment where people can consume that electricity. Now that process is what has taken us 3 years to get to this point. You know, extending the transmission grid, improving the power generation, being the sixth country in the world with green energy, with the highest level of green energy contribution to the grid. It's not a small thing, you know, and Kenyans should really stop downplaying the importance of some of the resources that their government has put into place, because to have geothermal forming such a substantial portion, over 30% of your base load of electricity, while other countries are still using nuclear power and relying very heavily on hydro, I think we've made some very good steps and good decisions.
And yet KPLC is always doing what it does best, blacking us out.
KPLC has a program that they must implement to bring their power grid into the current day.
Yeah.
You know, again, those are capex heavy projects. Those are projects that require money, they require time, they need to swap out the infrastructure. There's policy decisions as to what level of competition needs to be introduced in order to stimulate that. But those are policy decisions that the Energy Ministry will make in the fullness of time.
Okay, with all these things that you all have achieved,
Yes.
the one Achilles heel, the one thing that drags you all back, and you know this, Nzioka, the one thing, the big C, corruption. Corruption, corruption. And you're at OP. Even the president said at OP, it's raided with corruption. It's ridden.
So,
It's endemic almost.
Jeff, let's be circumspect. How many years has this country been independent?
53.
Count the number of times cabinet secretaries have been charged, fired from the cabinet. Let's just count from 1963. let's count the number of times cabinet secretaries have been dropped from the cabinet. Investigation kicked off,
But
right?
still earning a salary.
They're not earning a
They're
salary.
earning a salary.
That is nonsense.
Come on.
That is utter and pure
With
nonsense.
guards, bodyguards, and drivers, and using...
Jeff, you know, again, let's move away from the realm of conjecture. You know, let's be in the real world. Anyone who is not in government is not paid by government. You know, cabinet secretaries have left. If they've made their own private security arrangements, that is entirely up to them. It's their right as Kenyans to protect themselves.
So if we see former cabinet secretaries with AP security or...
You can hire an AP, Jeff. Even you can hire an AP.
No, I can't.
You have APs at your gate here.
So what are you saying?
You can hire APs. If somebody's hired an AP, it's not an indication that the government is paying
So
them
they were
for anything.
suspended,
Yeah.
but they never made it to court. They never got to court.
Now, this is the most essential part of this conversation. In 2010, we queued from 5 a.m. to vote in a new constitution. And thank be to God, we got a new constitution. Now, that new constitution creates a very simple philosophy of the separation of powers and the creation of independent institutional offices. Who is responsible today for investigations and prosecutions? You have agencies that are tasked with that work. You have one person with a kill switch for prosecution. One person, and you know where he is, right? And he's responsible. He holds the ticket, but he also has to meet, he must see that this meets his constitutional threshold for him to pull the kill switch, right? If the DPP sends you to court and says it's going to charge you, then that issue moves out of that arm of government into the judiciary. 380 cases and counting of corruption cases before the judiciary today that are waiting adjudication.
So is the problem the DPP? Is it that section?
The problem we have, Jeff, is that we must appreciate that the fight against corruption must be sustainable, it must be systematic, it must be anchored in the rule of law. So we should not be baying for the weakening of institutions in order to engage in a witch hunt, right? It doesn't matter who comes into administration at any point.
But Nzioka,
they must respect the Constitution.
Nzioka, this gives people more incentives to steal because they feel they can get away with it. You know, the case will drag on for years. They'll be in and out of court for years. They'll get to spend their money.
Let's be sincere about this, Jeff. Okay, let's take your scenario. Let's take your scenario and ask yourselves, this is the court case. You know, we have a very strong Chief Justice. We have a very strong Supreme Court. We have a very strong judiciary. You know, these are people, some of whom were my peers who are now judges in the High Court. You know, probably I'm too young to be in the Supreme Court or in the appellate court. But these are people with good minds, right? These are people who are conscientious. But the processes need to be improved systematically. You know, there needs to be a chill out moment, because if you tell us, Jeff, today, Mr. President, go and pick these people, take them to Nyayo Stadium and shoot them, right? It will be the worst slippery slope that you have gone down.
It happened in Ghana,
right?
1979.
Yes.
Jerry Rawlings.
We are not in 1979. We are a mature democracy. We are the leader in terms of open, free, and transparent political participation on the continent. You know, we do not engage in that sort of behavior. And as a people, you know, we must appreciate that even if we need to deal with this monster of corruption, I think this administration is on the right track. If you look at what the National Assembly has passed in terms of laws dealing with corruption-related matters, right? Streamlining money laundering and the proceeds of crime, right? And then you look at what we have done, even though the DPP, for instance, is an independent office holder. Today, agencies, the Kenya Revenue Authority, the Asset Management, the Asset Recovery Agency, the Attorney General's office, right? All of them, the EACC, sit together to plan on how to tackle big corruption cases. So 3 billion shillings later in recovered funds, in preserved accounts, you know.
Yeah.
And I dare you, you know, again, let's go back to 1963 and show me a government that has recovered that sort of money.
Yeah, but
I would be very happy.
That kind of money was lost at NYS alone, almost 3 billion.
Sorry?
That kind of money was lost at NYS alone.
Again, I say let's move away from conjecture. Today, you have funds recovered from NYS.
How much?
You have suspects recovered from NYS.
But
part of that 3 billion of accounts which have been preserved are from the NYS.
No one's been prosecuted.
Today, even crimes that were committed in previous administrations. Let's take the Usman case. Let's take the Gishuru and Okemo case. Those discussions are in high gear. Funds from the Usman case are already in Kenya. The ambulances have been brought and donated, were presented by the British government, you know, just a couple of weeks ago when Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson was here.
Yeah.
You know, the case of Okemo is a discussion with the government of Jersey.
But
those funds are coming back.
But Kafura can walk out of a bank with 100 million shillings in gunny bags, and it's okay.
I think it would be unfair for me, Jeff, to talk about somebody who has not gone through due process. And I think that's one of the challenges we face as a country.
You know what the biggest...
Tomorrow, somebody, I mean, I look at my timeline, you know, people will say, oh, this guy comes from Mukambani, he's a traitor, he sold the country. These ones do this, these ones do that, these ones. You can't assess people based on village shouting, the mob justice. Everyone should be entitled to their day in court. What we should be doing, Jeff, is strengthening those systems and working with the president to help him to push this agenda.
Yeah, the president must be very frustrated sometimes, especially when he sees corruption so close around him.
The president has cleared the corruption around him. He's re-engineered his government. From November 2015, we rejigged this government, right? We reorganized it to be more efficient and more effective. That is why this government has been able to deliver more than any preceding government, you know? And that's why I like this discussion on facts, you know, because even other people will want to contest, but they will not contest with facts because they had a resource envelope that they were working with. They can't show anything about, you know, what was done, you know, in spite of having spent decades in government, having jumped from ministry to ministry. There's nothing to show for it.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
Nzioka, on that note, let's take a quick break, come back, talk about SGR. SGR, 300 billion shillings for 300 kilometers.
Yes.
Come on.
500 kilometers, Jeff.
Is it going to be ready?
Of course.
June 1.
June 1.
Are you going to be on it?
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Inshallah.
Let's talk about that. And other so-called achievements. Okay.
You can't put a so-called achievement, Jeff. You know, I must register my protest. You know, give me that thing you have there. You know, give me that thing you have there. You know? The SGR.
Yes. Let's take a break, come back. I want to talk about that. You're watching Jeff Koinange live on Citizen Television. We're talking to the Deputy Chief of Staff at the Office of the President, Nzioka Waita, defending his boss and his delivery in the last 4 years. Send us your answer to your question. The question we were asking earlier on, has Jubilee delivered on its promises? Yes or no? We'll read some more text, tweets, and everything coming up. So far, where are we? Still 38-62. You're still doing quite badly. But we'll be back in a moment.
You're watching JKL, brought to you by Telkom Enterprise. Accelerate your business growth with reliable high-speed connectivity solutions from Telkom Enterprise.